If these contacts are real, if they're true, if somebody's actually meeting with extraterrestrials, what's the reason for it? The reason isn't for us to chase lights in the sky. If you're realizing, what? This 83-year-old guy with a gray beard is traveling in time as well as space? Yeah, okay, move along. He is now stepping into a place where he's trying to intimidate a man, and if he only knew what's coming, if only our people knew what was coming.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Watch Mojo's Unveiled podcast. I'm your host, Rob. And before I jump into today's episode, I just want to let you know that Unveiled is now available across all podcast platforms. So whether you like to listen on Apple, Google, Spotify, or anywhere else, please go and follow Unveiled. It really helps us to support the show and allows us to continue to bring you interviews with leading experts in the field of UFOs and UAPs. My guest today is Michael Horn. He is an author, researcher, and the authorized American media representative for the Billy Meier UFO case, which he has been studying for over 40 years. So I'm very excited to get into that topic with him and hopefully connect some threads to the current UAP disclosure narrative that's been unfolding. Michael, thank you for joining us today.
Hi, Rob. Thank you very much for having me on. I'm quite interested in having the conversation with you.
It should be a good one. So let's set the stage. For anybody who's kind of aware of the current state of UAP discourse in 2025, but maybe isn't familiar with the Billy Meier case, how can you set that up for us?
Well, I'll try the kind of one of the standard introductions. Billy Meier is a now 83-year-old Swiss man who claims that he began meeting voluntarily face-to-face with extraterrestrial human beings in 1942 when he was 5 years old. These contacts apparently go on to this day, numbering in the hundreds, nearly 1,000 published contacts. And this case distinguishes itself in many ways that we, perhaps can explore. It is the only case. Let me back up a little so I can explain why I say certain things. I started my own research into this material in 1946. I'd been interested in UFOs and that type of thing since I was a kid back in the 40s. I came upon many different claimed cases. When I was in high school in 1953, a guy walked up to me in the lobby of this school we were in and started telling me about his father was in the Air Force and that he had apparently been involved in something interesting. And what was that? His father told him that they had discovered, prior to this conversation, but he told me they had discovered a flying saucer, the term used in those days, and that they had taken it to an Air Force base in Ohio. I would subsequently put the pieces together and realize this kid's dad was apparently knowledgeable about, if not directly involved in the Roswell case. So I came through many exposure to almost anything out there from that point, because people have said to me, why do you only talk about the Billy Meier case? And I'm going to be explaining more about why. But the bottom line is I found no other cases where the evidence has been independently authenticated and through analysis and testing to be absolutely determined to be absolutely of extraterrestrial manufacture. That being said, I don't say that there aren't and haven't been other, and may currently be, things that are seen, photographed, videotaped, filmed, whatever you want to, that may not be manufactured on this earth. As a matter of fact, I'm very confident that there is and are such things. However, the claims that have been floated for a very long time tend to be third hand quite often, or if they're supposedly first or second hand, there's zero evidence. Now, as that relates to the Meier material and why I've been so engrossed with it is literally overflowing with independently analyzed and authenticated evidence of extraterrestrial manufacture. We're talking about JPL, NASA, McDonnell Douglas, film companies, where all this stuff has gone through analyses. We have USAF, OSI, DOD, United States Air Force Office of Special Investigation, Department of Defense investigator supervisor who interrogated me for 3 months. He was a skeptic coming in. He endorsed the case as singularly authentic. After that, we have the late astronaut Gordon Cooper, who knew the investigative team, saw the material, and vouches for it as this is authentic. This man is meeting with extraterrestrial. So this is like the tip of the tip of the tip of, well, what's this Meier case about? What I could say it is about is the only independently analyzed and authenticated contacts with extraterrestrial sources that can be proven in 15 minutes to involve space and time travel. People who, like judges and lawyers, people who I've interacted with, who understand what evidence and proof beyond a reasonable doubt entails, they've gotten it. They understand that. You won't find that in the UFO community, the ufology, UFO lore, because it doesn't exist. Now, I don't mind being upgraded on, well, here's where this is proved. Now, some people may say there's this thing, the bugosphere or whatever. It could well be extraterrestrial manufacture. We only know that so far it's an unusual thing, and I have theories about it, which aren't facts and simply opinions. So Billy Meier doesn't give simply opinions with evidence. He has his opinions about things, but in terms of evidence, it's hardcore. He took between 1,200 and 1,400 pre-digital UFO photos. These are all pre-digital. There's no Photoshop here.
So those are examples behind you of the photos that he's taken.
Yes, and people, we have an abundance of visual evidence. There's films, there's video, an astounding video where he's in the film broad daylight with this craft hovering at a tree. A couple hundred yards from him, he zooms in. Amazing stuff, and people just are very blasé because we expect everything is either a fake, it's CGI or AI or what have you. Sound recordings that couldn't be duplicated with synthesizers of the craft. Over 100 eyewitnesses. I'm a multiple eyewitness. And that's anecdotal. It's not evidence that I take to the bank, but you get 100 eyewitnesses, people who are also photographers and took photos of the craft. So there is a preponderance of incomparable, unparalleled, still irreproducible physical evidence that sets this far above and apart all things, which is why most people don't know about it. There is a higher standard of proof in terms of evidence as well. And that higher standard of proof is in terms of information. I call it the higher standard of proof because it is objectively supported by scientific and legal standards of proof. And that is copyrighted information that this man, Billy Meier, verifiably published before events occurred or discoveries were made. And we're speaking anywhere from 6 months to 60 years. And some of the most well-known events, discoveries, voluminous stuff. Underneath that is the question that is never asked in all of ufology. And that is, if these contacts are real, if they're true, if somebody's actually meeting with extraterrestrials, what's the reason for it? The reason isn't for us to chase lights in the sky. It isn't for me or anybody else to run around giving lectures on UFOs. It's for us to realize that there are indeed some people here on Earth, and not originating here, who are trying to help us assure our very threatened future survival. And they did it They start off with the eye candy, the UFOs, to catch our attention. Meier's earliest photos, there was one or two from the late 50s, but 1964, he took a bunch in India. And this is what had caught the attention of the, I'll just call him the Air Force investigator that interrogated me. And he delved into a lot of stuff, very interesting. But people that understood that this is, as the investigator said, there was, to my knowledge, no UFOs are us in India. So where did Billy Meier get an album with 80 UFO photos that he showed to a credible reporter for a established newspaper who reported on it and described it, and you still have some of those photos? Where did he get those photos if this is a hoax? I mean, among many things the man pointed out. He didn't even get into the prophecies and predictions. This guy wanted to know if this was authentic, and he said, ironclad, 100% authentic. I will take on any skeptics on your behalf. He did. He took on a couple people in ufology. One guy was named Kevin Randall, who considers himself a UFO expert, and he was trying to debunk the Meier case. This man, Joe Tisk, took him apart. The guy probably regretted ever having the conversation with him, but that's the difference, as this man, Mr. Tisk, pointed out, between people who dabble in things that they have no real expertise in, no extensive investigative skills, do not understand the means, motive, and opportunity, simple procedures for forensic examinations and how you establish if a thing is so or not based on beliefs and skepticism and wanting something to be true or not true. So this is where the UFO, UAP, whatever initials you want to have, community and its supposed experts and lecturers and researchers fall very, very, very short of credibility, competence, and significance in terms of bringing conclusive evidence and proof to the world of a phenomenon which has now captured worldwide attention. And they don't even speak about the depth of the evidence. None of them will touch this case, and none of them delve into the prophecies and predictions. And very few people, certainly none in the UFO community, understand that at the core of this case, with this thing about helping us assure future survival, is a teaching. Meier has written 60 plus books. I mean, these are thick books. And guess what? They're not all about UFOs. Most of them are not. The majority of them are not. He's got a wonderful book about From the Depths of Outer Space, where he explains a lot of things about his contacts and being on board these craft since he's a child and his adventures. This is a teaching. This is about what we on Earth are missing, what has been taken from us, hidden, co-opted, and distorted, and turned into religions and belief systems and silly New Age mumbo jumbo and astrobabble. So, yeah, I'm opinionated, in case anybody can't tell. And I don't mind being challenged and informed and all that. And if I say something, that isn't accurate, I know I will be corrected either in present or future time if I don't get to it first. People point things out. But I'll tell you, there's one thing about Mr. Meier, one of many, and his 83-year running contacts. He's faced the most brutal, hostile, and aggressive attitudes, behaviors, and receptions from human beings. In the last 90 days, he survived the 26th and 27th attempt on his life in Switzerland. He is attacked, his character, his person, his family. It goes on and on. We have on the front page currently, at this time on our blog, an expose about terror UFO cult leader exposed, which is something that, if you want to talk about, we talk about more. a man who ingratiated himself, first started by helping me out with things, volunteering to do things, and with the ultimate goal of coming to attack the case and claim that he was a contactee, a man who has shamelessly threatened to kill Meier, me, a whole bunch of other people, burn people, erase it. I mean, an amazing thing what happens. People, this kind of thing triggers not only the curiosity and the interest of people, not only the crazy profiteering ambitions of people in ufology who will try to parlay it to their advantage, but people who are really off their rockers, who feel now they are some kind of special, pardon me, being who is meeting with people, and they post films or videos of lights in the sky to try and make their case. I mean, this is a field that is largely influenced, heavily influenced through the secret services, intelligence communities, and the ufology community is infiltrated and influenced without, at times, without its notice. MUFON is an organization that accounts to the CIA. I have this on very direct, I have a blog about it. They have all these wonderful, nice people, field investigators running around, snapping photos and all. I'll just tell this, and take me off my track anytime you want.
No, that's okay. I'm enjoying this. I will have questions eventually, but keep going.
Sure. I'll have to figure out what the answers are, right? Okay. So I know a gentleman who was, he retired from, it was called Orbital, uh, Orbital Rocket Systems, Orbital Aerospace, something, in Arizona. And he was a vice president, director of operations. And he had a friend that he was in touch with who's still there, who, yeah, and they all at the time, they have very, very high level clearances. They're working with, government and rockets and top secret stuff. Fine. A friend of his who is still involved, who um, got an invitation one day to meet with one of the people, a high up at MUFON, who wanted to meet with him. And they were talking and having lunch, and the guy wanted him to become part of MUFON in some way. And in the conversation, and it's more definitively presented on the blog, he explains to them, because my friend's friend was asking questions and about the people that are taking photos and so on. He said, well, it's a useful function because what happens is we forward all these things to the CIA for them to, let's say, send them to the appropriate departments, because they're used to determine how well the secret military craft of America is either screened or visible or not, and any unidentified objects can be captured, and they can further try to analyze those. And the guy said to him, "What?" He said, "I'm not interested. Thank you very much." So, and by the way, excuse me, in 1953, Billy was, we have it in writing, he was told that MUFON would be his biggest opponent for a long time. That was before MUFON existed, by the way. They do a lot of that thing of going a little forward into the future and explaining things to him. And I have lectured at several MUFON events. Some people independently have invited me in LA, in Sedona, Arizona, in Tucson, Arizona. I was invited by someone, I think it was in Kansas City, and then one of the MUFON directors censored it and said, you can't hold this here. Heavily institutionally, the MUFON people have blocked this, but there's a lot of new MUFON people coming in, and they want to know the truth, interestingly enough. There are people in the MUFON hierarchy that are clearly accountable, obviously. They're forwarding stuff to the CIA. And I'm not a big conspiracist. I'm not any kind of a conspiracist. There are conspiracies, so what? But we don't deal with them. We deal with facts. We have to rely on factual things, not theories. I've tried to trick Meier several times on information he casually gave me. Came back 3 times to Switzerland and tried to catch him on it again. It was always the same thing, without a moment's hesitation. Factually, we always, if we see something, it's like because people know that he's published so much information, we have a minimum of 250 error-free examples of specific, prophetically accurate, scientific, geopolitical, environmental, medical, and economic information. So when things pop up in the news, now a lot of people are saying, well, did Billy predict this? I said, well, let's search and see. He didn't predict everything that's happened. They don't need to. They've given us pivotal things that if we had the wit and the wisdom to stop chasing stupid stuff in the sky that we can do nothing with. Even in this case, this is fascinating. And it's the best evidence, clear as day. Sometimes he's within 15 feet of these things. And it's for another purpose because we cannot do anything with UFOs. As I said in my new film, I can't do anything with UFOs. No one gives me one. Maybe then if I was as lucky as this 5-year-old Edward Albert Meyer in 1942 in Switzerland, where they not only took him on board, but they arranged for automatic pickup so that he would be brought to certain places. Now, nothing to believe here. And as we say in the film, it's called Singularly Authentic, and it's loaded with evidence of every form. People have to think these things through for themselves. And so when people, I said I'd stop, but I have one last one before I put a lid on it. People, when I was becoming, more public with things, starting back in the early 2000s, really, people were saying, well, what about Stephen Greer should know about this? Well, in 2004 or 5, somewhere in there, I was sitting on a panel in LA at the LAX Hilton. It was like a whole life expo or something. It was a UFO panel. I was there. There were several other people. There was one person between me and Greer, and he had gotten up to, introduce himself. It was my turn. And I took the time, a lot of it, to turn to him and to say, Stephen, you've got a lot of people, very credible people, Air Force, all sorts of people coming forward. The problem is that while it's true, they're telling the truth, they've seen things. They don't know what they've seen. Could be anything, could be military. So I'm offering you everything available to us in the Billy Meier case, the best evidence you will ever find. Stephen Greer's response? Wouldn't look, wouldn't respond. Since that time, over 20 years ago, many people have written to him about it. This is what happens when a human being compromises their integrity and their honesty for some form of profit, for self-service. I won't venture the guesses as to the hows and whys, but I will certainly say, and I will invite Mr. Greer again 20 years later to have a face-to-face or address me or confront me if he wants to, or discuss it with me and explain how it is he has magically, as this big disclosure proponent, managed to avoid ever knowing about the Billy Meier contact. Since they're singularly authentic, it speaks for itself, as it does with Lou Elizondo and Chris Mellon in the American government, who I've also confronted online. There's a video on my site with a man named Sean Cahill, former Navy intelligence, in the foreground on his phone. In the background, I hear my voice. They're in a car, and I hear me talking about Lou Elizondo. And Cahill takes the phone, turns it, and there's Lou Elizondo in the front seat of this car, smiling, I could say at us, at me, giving me a thumbs up. I had confronted him online. He's a liar. He's a profiteer. I say it just as evidence. He can certainly confront and call me up. They don't do it because that draws attention to this. And that, as you'll notice, all you good folks, only a minority of people ever hear about the singularly authentic Billy Meier UFO contacts ongoing for over 83 years, the key to our future survival. Oh, well, they get their book deals and they get their little platforms. And then there's a guy, Ross Coulthart or something from Australia, very serious, nice fellow. When he came forward, I think I saw an article on Medium. I found him and I found his address and I wrote to him, sent him the Billy Meier stuff. He literally responded to me saying, well, I can't look at that now because, I have a family to feed and I've got this. I went, oh no. There's another fellow, Stephen Bassett. All these years ago, Stephen Bassett, X conferences and were petitioning the government. I met with this guy. And I met with him a couple of times. I spent something like a total of 6 hours in person with him, explaining, Stephen, here's the evidence for your 6 hours. It isn't time yet. We have to send faxes to Washington. He's another profiteer that runs a shoddy little silly thing. All of these people, no conclusive evidence. They keep milking the cow, and gullible people keep on going ooh and ah about it. Meanwhile, the rights in our country are being usurped by a dictatorial president, foretold as early as 1947 by Billy Meier, and throughout the years more. And I mean, this is the kind of stuff that to me is mind-boggling. When we get specific information, publish it, and only a few thousand people will know about it because we are pushed down in the Google ratings, and all the silly UAP stuff and all that is out there. So I will stop at this moment out of respect. Thank you for being so patient, and let me have it.
No, it's a pleasure. And I think that we established a very good context for this conversation with the descriptions that you just gave to us. I'm curious, leading off of what you just said, since many of the prophecies and things that have been passed on to Billy Meier deal with humanity's future, and they're presented as very vital to our survival, it seems like that would be a big burden for somebody to carry, and it must be discouraging to not be taken seriously by so many people and to not be acknowledged by people in this field who you would assume it is in their best interest to get to the bottom of these truths. So how does it feel facing this uphill battle for so many years?
Well, you mean Billy, of course, because he's the man who is, if you will, the source, the prophet of the prophecies and the predictions and all, along with two other factors: the people he still meets with, the Plejaren. Billy Meier, 1975, introduced the term Pleiadian. You're probably familiar with all these people talking about Pleiadians.
Mhm.
They don't exist. It's a screen name. He
So
was
let's
given.
let's just pause to talk about the beings themselves. So we're right there, but
Sure.
I just want to
Anything.
establish who it is who has been contacting him and what they are, where they're from, and what is it that they've been telling him.
Good. The, the first contact person he had, and I'll just say it once here, according to the information in the case, I wasn't there, but here's the story. He and his father see a silver disc flying through the sky somewhere around 1942, Switzerland. Dad, what's that? I don't know. It could be a secret weapon of Hitler's coming towards the end of the Second World War. Shortly after that, he starts hearing a voice speaking to a man speaking to him in his head, which is a little unnerving. He's 5 years old. What's this? Um, he goes out one day into the woods. He lives in a beautiful part of Switzerland. Most of it's very beautiful anyhow. Goes out into the forest, and there's a clearing, and he sees a, kind of a pear-shaped craft sitting on strut-like legs. In front of it is an elderly-looking man with what looks like a deep-sea diver's suit, the collar here without the helmet. And he feels beckoned towards the man. The man waves him forward, and he comes closer. And in recounting this, he said, I had no fear, really, apart from that moment. I had no fear that this was benevolent. I could feel this. And I came forward, and this began 11 years of his association with this man whose name was given as Sfath, Sfath, Sfath. So he is taken on board this craft. He recognizes the voice as the voice of the man speaking to him from within. And he had, in between these things, he had consulted with his parish priest when he heard these voices, because he thought he might be going a little off. And the parish priest had been telepathically contacted by Svath, because the parish priest had a connection to this mission too. It's a term here. I won't go too far into off to the side of that, but there was a connection there. He Svath communicated to him that young Edward Albert would be coming to see him. Would you be so kind as to let him know that this is not harmful? And more information was explained to Father Zimmerman. So when Edward Albert came to meet him, he assured him it's safe. So meeting the man, hearing the voice. And this began an 11-year period where he was tutored on board the ship. He was taken to different places on and off the earth, and to different time periods, past, future, our present, and beyond, according to this information. 11 years pass. This man Svath is preparing to leave life. He explains to young Edward, you will now be meeting with a woman who is very, very wise, a very wonderful woman who will, from this point on, be tutoring you for a period of time. Have no fear. And at this point, young Billy Edward had no fear of anything. When you start to read what Svath, and he went through, saw, and were involved in at different epochs and all the rest. Asket is the woman who comes. She was not a Plejaren. So now we'll explain. Svath is a Plejaren. That is a term that was only, quote unquote, officially introduced into the narrative in about 1998. Even prior, just after Svath, I don't think Svath he mentions that he comes as people come from the area of the Pleiades and the night sky. Asket comes from another race, a sister race, if you will, to the Plejaren, who live in an adjoining sister universe to ours. Let's say a twin universe to us. And they are connected to these Pleiadian, as we would say, Meier introduces the term 1975. I'll get to how and why that happens. But Asket is a Timar, Timar, and she is an enormously advanced person. She is the person that took Meier beneath the Great Pyramid in 1953. And fortunately, they have all the transcripts of their conversations and everything. And there's a TV show with an American host. It's called Redacted, and Clayton Morris is the host. He was interviewing a guy who was talking about the new discoveries about a city or underneath the Great Pyramid, and Clayton Morris comes out and tells him, "Hey, this guy Billy Meier, he wrote about this. He's been under there, So there are some people, and Clayton's half a dozen times as he either brought me or brought the show information forward to the public. So Billy Meier is describing what's underneath the Great Pyramid, what used to be underneath the Great Pyramid and isn't any longer, but it's so much more detailed and descriptive, even than, because right now we're still relying, I think, on some kind of X-ray images and whatever. So this is Asket's doing. She takes him under there for very specific reasons pertaining to the formation of our religions, formation of different cults that arose, also how and why certain things would threaten us in the future. Just a lot of things connected to the Great Pyramid and still connected. Then she's still alive. 11 years later, it's about 1975. She saying, you will now meet with the people of the same race as Svath, these people, and they will continue from here on. And it's in 75 that he begins meeting with a woman who uses the name Semjase, Semjase, which, of course, and apparently deliberately done so much, triggers people who go back to the Bible with Semyaza, a fallen angel, and all this. So all these people carry on. Oh, she is, with religious delusions, delightful stuff. So Semyaza says, from here on, because Billy's starts taking photos of her craft and everything. From here on, you'll be able to publish photos, and we'll have films where opportunities for you to film the craft and everything, and you will be able to publish these transcripts, and you refer to us as the Pleiadians. And he said, well, why would you do that? He said, there's no such thing. You don't live in the Pleiades. You're 500 light years beyond that in a star system beyond it. She said, well, yeah, that's so, but you're going to attract a lot of attention. A lot of it's going to be very unpleasant. It'll threaten your life many times. And beyond that, you will find that there will suddenly be no shortage of people who are claiming to meet with us, to be dating us, having our babies, impregnating us. You name it, they're going to come out of the woodwork. You're going to have, the Barbara Hand Clow and all these other, there's somebody King, I forget her first name. It's something King in Australia. And they're all going to parade their thing out there. And you're going to find that you'll want to come running to us all the time to verify or, try to check this out. And let me just tell you now, we don't meet with anybody. We're not in telepathic or physical contact. We're not, seeing any of these people at all in any way, shape, or form. And we never will. We will only officially carry on contacts with you. There are accidental encounters that can happen, not only between us and Earth people occasionally, but between other extraterrestrials that may be here that are doing things like gathering up some, what do you call it, plants or minerals or whatever. Suddenly an accidental encounter, which is not considered by us a contact in the sense that it's a deliberately initiated, let alone ongoing kind of a situation. So we use a screen name, use a screen name for a period of time, because then you're going to know all people that are just lying and you can dismiss it. And Billy, at times, over these years, he did at times just throw his hands up saying, what am I supposed to do? The people of Earth, they don't want to know. They simply don't want to know. And they said, well, it's up to you. You don't have to continue if you don't want. Nope, nothing stops me. But I tell you, and he's happy. He's a human being. He's not a Superman, Yes, in many ways, he's rather amazing, of course, but he's a human being. So he decided every time to carry on, to go forth. And it is said in this material, he is the seventh and final, quote unquote, prophet of this lineage for the people of Earth, bringing forth again for the seventh time the same teaching of creation, the same thing that he fills these books with that is riveting. None of this psychobabble, mumbo jumbo, Space Brothers stuff. This is how do you think. This is how thinking works. This is how your thoughts lead you to your feelings, which then lead you to the thoughts and actions you take or don't take. And this is this dynamic. This is how neutrality functions and why partisanship is. I mean, but that doesn't even touch the beginning of it. It's just like, okay, here's a title of a chapter. He has a book. Okay. I'll set it up, if I may, because it's connected to all this. I'll just say, so he continues to meet with the Plejaren people. He's met supposedly the father of this woman, Semyaza, whose name is Ptah. Apparently, the leader of this, race of people. There's a man named Quetzal. There's a woman named Florina. Oh my gosh, there's Bermunda. Manara from another race who had her ship set down on the property in Switzerland during the time it was a lot of snow, and it left a perfect circle where it burned through, and also left swirled patterns in the grass that we are familiar with, things that appeared, some appeared before, but some many more subsequently, crop circles from other beings. These weren't from these people. So this, when I said seventh and final prophet, do you want me to go there? Do you want to go on your I can always put that till later.
Well, can you shed some light on, I guess I'm curious about why, if their messages for humanity are so crucial, why go through one single person as opposed to sharing with larger groups of people? And
Sure.
why did they choose Billy?
Good. So their message, their crucial message for humankind, as I said, in one way, I boil it down to trying to help us assure our very threatened future survival. It's tied into all of these books in certain profound ways. So let me try to do it. Why didn't they try to bring groups of people together? I think in a world where we now have at least 4,000 different religions, all of which, of course, have the one true God, tip your hat to that, they know the propensity of humankind for many, many, many millennia to fall into trances about religions, to get extremely bent out of shape, that people think something different or believe something different. They know that people become very violent for any number of reasons, which are explained in this material early on, by the way, how we become so violent. And what they realized also is that, the telephone game. Hi, I want to tell you that go around the circle. What's that? It's not this. So they're not stupid, apparently, and quite obviously. Certainly, if they can get here from 500 light years away, they probably figured out a few things. So they have always, this will give you the lead into the previous thing, they've always chosen one human being during certain epochs to contact, to educate, to show things to, very often also past and future events, which is why things like the predictions of Jeremiah and the Hanok prophecies and things like that exist, because those are two of the earliest prophets in this lineage who also were given very clear glimpses of things. And we have that material, of course, published. And when you see things like the Third World War, when the United States will be in a third world war with China, pardon me, primarily Russia, and it will drag Canada into it. You say, well, wait a minute. If you say that's in the Hanok prophecies, 1987, but you're saying Hanok was a prophet who lived 10,000 or so years ago. Well, there was no Russia in that. That's right. And that's why when you go to read the Hanok prophecies, the extraterrestrial Quetzal says, I present this to you in the language of these times because these countries, these places weren't known at those times. They didn't exist yet. So he speaks about many. He speaks about the Scandinavian countries, Norway, Sweden, Finland, because Russia will attack them. This is very interesting. When this came out in German in 87 and in English about 2002, would Russia attack Scandinavia? 2023, 4, 5, those countries join NATO, which is begging to attack Russia. So Scandinavia will be attacked. Okay, little diversion there. So we talk about these prophecies, these warnings, because for a long time, in accordance or in violation, if you want to say, in a way, of the immutable universal law of cause and effect, very well explained in Meier's books, pivotal thing for us to understand. Human beings, sometimes under the influence of these negative extraterrestrials, sometimes for long periods of time, merely under our own very highly developed, degenerated negativity, we have gone on the wrong track. We have fallen into cults of belief, religions, some of which were started through negative extraterrestrials, dating back 5,000 years or more, whatever. We have adopted poisonous political partisanship, which violates all of the laws these people are talking about. They neutrality. Partisanship is not neutrality. We must learn to see things as they are and to to see and to think with neutral positivity, to first to see what is a thing. Now, what do we think and feel is the best way to proceed with what this reality is? Do we work with this thing? Do we perpetuate? Do we change something here in order to direct things along the most positive course in our personal and collective lives? That's not possible, really, with politics because it's an adversarial, advantage-oriented, completely anti-life process and the least effective means for human cooperative communication and relationship. We believe this thing, we are this, and we align with this one and this leader. Well, we are this and this. So we've now ruled out automatically any good ideas that could possibly come from anybody over here. You're not going to get anybody to, because no, that's not what we believe in. What are your beliefs based on? Well, it's politics, it's advantage, it's the way the economy should be, and this, everything but the foundational realities of life and how life works, the universal laws. There's a law called, the law of prosperity. Nope, I correct myself. It may be similar. The law of provision. And it means this. This is my understanding. And any of these are my understanding, unless I'm going to read it out of a book, and I don't want to do that because let people find it themselves. This law is, I'm just trying to summarize, one of the immutable laws of creation that is impersonal. None of the operation of the creation, that source of all that is, it's not a God, it's not a being, it's not a deity. It's all that is energetically and in consciousness that if we start to read these books, we realize, whoa, what? This is what so these laws tell us just by their presence, the universe, New Agers like to think, well, the universe gave me this today and the universe is telling me to do this and I'm asking the universe for that. No, save your time and energy. The universe doesn't have any direct communication with its creations. It creates, if you will, through the laws that it's given, that we may study when we are presented with these laws, that we may vet them and work them out, test them. This isn't a Bible of belief. It's a teaching book. Connect this wire to this terminal. Tighten the thing. Then you do this, and you will get this result if you've done it correctly. Plant these seeds at 3 inches, and do this, water. If you've done this correctly and all, then you will start to see this. Recipe, instructions on how something works. If it's true, you get the result. If it's accurate, factual. So that's why this is the important part of the case. Instead, human beings got seduced into politics and its evil twin sibling, religions, both of which create crazy thinking, have no actual evidence. They're based on beliefs and man-made things that violate these laws. So to come back to that law, if you will, provision, prosperity, however you want to put it, the law is that when a human being, through their best efforts and their unknowingness, because we know very little, if we knew it all, we wouldn't be doing this. We have to make mistakes. That's part of our process of discovery, of evolution. And evolution's a very long process. Forget about getting off the planet, 5D, going into your light body and other gibberish. This goes on for billions a year, millions and billions, So here you go. It says, in effect, when human beings strive to live in accordance with love, peace, freedom, harmony, knowledge, wisdom, compassion, being good stewards of their home, their nature, and studying nature to see how the creation works and all that. When a human beings doing their best to learn and to live in accordance with this, they are naturally operating in and being receivers of the abundance of this universe. It isn't a judgmental God that's going to dip you in lead, when you die because you were evil. And it's neutral. Here's how it works, folks. Have a nice day. Talk to you. Yeah, billion years, the next thing will happen. You'll figure it out. In the meantime, the creation is doing its own evolution. It's impersonal. It's not a personality or anything like that. And it isn't set up to punish us. We do that to ourselves through wrong understanding. Now, sometimes other people may punish us if we have transgressed against the rights of others, assuming in a nice, perfect, cleanly functioning world, people have to be given time to figure out where they've made a big error. In the meantime, we make our own mistakes. Sometimes it's a week or a decade later that we figure something out. And even during that time, we may still be operating in that consciousness of a respect for life itself and wanting to cooperate with it, share, nourish, nurture in our own way. You can be a truck driver and do that. You can do anything. If you are that kind of a person, your life tends to provide to you what I call wealth. Most people won't call it that. What is it? Why? My definition is when you have what you need, you're wealthy. People like to say, well, what if I need? Well, if you have it, I guess you could say you're wealthy. Then you can also say, if you're striving for something that seems to be a little excessive, unnecessary, necessarily excessive, excessively unnecessary, maybe then adopt that old Chinese proverb: if you want to be wealthy, lower your standards. Recognize what you need. So when people understand that needs and wants, in terms of the intrinsic, really important stuff, can really just align like that. When you experience enoughness in your life, not being dazzled, with the excesses that are set by people who are bling, 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 more, more, more. The people who are hungry for what they can't digest. They're full of emptiness inside, basically full of it, because they can never take in, let alone bring from within themselves that which is the reality of fullness, of satisfaction. And yet, along with the striving for something of value more, not for the sake of possession. We just don't get this is a little piece. So when you're living in accordance with the creational laws to the best of your ability, making your mistakes, you're going to find out that if you pay attention and really assess and take stock, you're wealthy. Now, sometimes you don't have that particular thing that you want or need. It takes you a little time and you get it. You strive to get it. Striving is a big part of this teaching. Moving towards things of value that reveal themselves from within and from without. So this whole thing is set up for us to be abundant, not to be without struggle, not to be without pain, but to essentially be in an abundance. People, Billy said, look, you can be in a jail cell and be free, but it sounds like a little glib thing, but there are people that do that. Maybe if we think about Julian Assange as a contemporary example, how did he survive all that? He must have had within him the fortitude, the strength, and a certain freedom to be stronger than those conditions. So there were prophets, starting with Enoch or Henoch in German, who were contactees to the Plejaren's ancestors, going back, well, at least 13,500 years. Starting with Enoch, he was shown certain things. He was given these prophecies by virtue of either being shown all, part, or some of them, and or being told them and shown, like time travel wise and all. So following him, there have been 6 subsequent prophets. Now I think I went off the why are they the Pleiadian and all that a bit, but it just, folks, there's so much in this case, and you can just, while the governments of the world are going crazy and stupid things are happening, all this stuff, nurture yourself on the teaching. There are things here that will help you to navigate these times. When I was talking about having too much, the president in our country, Trump, is a great example of somebody who never has enough. And recently, his, I guess, attorney general, this woman Pam Bondi, is under pressure because of this whole thing with this Epstein drama. I found a little thing online was very interesting. She also uh, deserves to have some more attention drawn to her because when Trump was, I guess, getting ready to announce something, maybe it was with Truth Social or something, it was something that would affect the stock. She went out and sold between $1 and $5 million worth of her stock. These people are what I call grifters. So many of the people in not only the Trump administration, you go through any of the American, it's all about this. It's all about what can I do for me. There, it's pretty sad. Yes, there's people of principle here and there, and then what they're in at least for a time. And if they're in for a time, watch how they start to get forced out one way or another through their own ethical standards, realizing they can't compromise their integrity and do what they're being told is the truth and do this or whatever. So while these things are going on with all this, and Trump now has demanded of Putin that he, toe the line or there'll be 50% tariffs on Russia, he should read the prophecies. He should find out a little more about what he's stepping into. Putin and most of the Russians, I'll tell you, the Chinese leaders, um, they're smarter than Trump. They may not be as filled with as much braggadocio. Now, they're not necessarily they're not choir boys. They are also, in their own rights, criminals and murderers getting into wars. But Putin is infinitely stronger as a person. More, Trump has endured a lot of things. I mean, certainly assassination attempts, but he's very comfortable and all. The Russian people as a whole have endured far more, certainly, than our people or your people or many people in the world. Hundreds of years of attacks and different countries and all. So he is now stepping into a place where he's trying to intimidate a man. And if he only knew what's coming, if only our people knew what was coming, we'd be storming the friggin' White House saying, get the hell out of here. No, no. Because in those Hanok prophecies, they spell out very clearly, and even in the precursor to those from 1981, the Russian troop movements, where they're going to go when they go on the march, because they're going on the march. And it's happening largely because the Ukraine war thing was set up by the US and NATO. They wanted to annex and take control of Russia. They want to take control of Iran. I Look, I'm not a political person. I'm not a geopolitical expert. Stuff's just staring in the face. And the beauty of it is that Meier has written so extensively about all of this, about things you don't hear about. He's the first to tell about how the Ukrainian soldiers are killing their own people to blame it on the Russians, shooting their own people. Israel, number one terrorist state on the face of the earth, massacring, committing genocide against the people in Gaza. Are there terrorists? Hamas, Hezbollah? Yes, there are. But right now, this state has been given carte blanche to annihilate, to obliterate a people. The warnings in the Meier material about Israel and what comes of it when the world has had enough and Israel is no more. Let people read if they want to themselves. It's not really any comfort.
What is the role, if there is one, of free will with regard to these prophecies? I understand that there's been decades of material. Many of the predictions have come to pass. There's many more that are coming in the future. But is there anything that humanity can do to step off of that path, or is it kind of fixed in place and we just need to learn? to
No,
deal with the consequences?
well, yes and no. Let's put it this way. There's two things. There's prophecies and there's predictions. The Henoch prophecies, the predictions of Jeremiah. Okay. They define prophecies this way, loosely. If they've written it out, I may not have it exact. Prophecies are events that will occur if people do not individually and collectively alter the course in time. Therefore, cause and effect. If this happens, then this happens. If you don't want this to happen, now that you've noticed this, come and start thinking, seeing things as they are, choosing what is the right course to change to in order to not perpetuate this. I'm simplifying, but it functions in every level, personal and collective, groups, countries. So when a certain thing is warned of at this time, and then we don't change it, and the next manifestation takes place, if you let these roll, you have a prediction now it will happen. You've gone past, at a certain point, you're past the point of any return. And it's a prediction. Now, that means it becomes unalterable. Now, predictions are also given in their own right, usually, but not always. For the most part, they're going to pertain to an object that's less uh, alterable or within the realm of influence of human beings. In other words, a certain earthquake, an eruption of a volcano, a tsunami. Now, there are some that have been not predicted, but have been precipitated through human action. But just talking generally, natural events, or an asteroid or a meteor or something coming from outer space, boom, 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 boom. That's coming, protect against it. Oh, okay, we can do that. There might be a warning. Or it'll say there will be a certain eruption at this level, and they've given many, and they've come through, and there's some that are on their way to fulfilling. We have it all printed out for people who want to know and want to stop chasing stupid lights in the sky that you can't do anything with, and listening to people who have no evidence and try to snow you with their narratives that go around in circles and no end. So, that being said, the predictions are things that we need to know about, such as the coming of asteroid Apophis. Meier warns about it in 2001, and NASA discovers it in 2004. Stupid to this day, denial. It's going to hit on one of two dates. The Plejaren information on the two dates of the approach align with the NASA information. April 13th, 2029, April 13th, 2036, one or the other. If it doesn't hit on April 13th, 29, folks, get your sunglasses because the thing's coming down. Get a cool drink. You ain't going nowhere. So we put up a comic book illustrating that and a couple other of the contexts, which are very interesting, but a free comic book online so that people can read it and see what they're saying, see it a little more, bring it a little more, into reality. And we've updated articles where NASA suddenly changes its tune about this, and it's just like what Billy predicted, where the Russians, after we publish all this information, we get it from Billy, we publish it, then the Russians come out shortly thereafter calling for the same thing that the Plejaren told Billy to call for, a joint effort to deflect asteroid Apophis. And the Chinese start looking for a way to deflect asteroid Apophis. They're a little smarter than we are about a few things. They actually care about, not just about some elite group wants to dig a bunker somewhere and to hell with what happens to the rest of the people. They'd like everything to be as, unmessed up as possible. So here, let's come together and do this. It's not known at this time. The prophecy on it, the prediction it's coming, but they have said it's up to the people of Earth. Right now, we cannot tell you if they will respond in time because we're so busy trying to destroy each other. And the aggression of the U.S. is just ceaseless, wants to own everything. Oh, I want what's yours. That should be our motto. So, and I'm going to take it whether you like it or not. On top of that, like the Mossad has a motto, I think, or a slogan, something like "Thou shalt do war by deception." It should be the motto of the mindset of what I call the Zion Nazis. Not first of all, I mean, there's a lot of stuff here. Not all Israelis are Zionists. Not all Israelis are warmongers. Not all Israelis are Jews. Not all Zionists are Jews, or it's a whole mess. But the institution of the state of Israel and the demonic kind of leadership that they keep allowing in place that commits genocides against people and then tries to play the innocent victim in the world, it's nauseating. And I never will forget my earliest encounter with Israelis, despite the fact that I have some friends who are Israelis, which means that it's not everybody under that banner. I'll just have to tell this because I'm sure that some people are going to think I'm some kind of bigot, despite being accused of being what's called a self-loathing Jew. In my book, to be Jewish, you have to be in a religion. I was never born into a religion, but nonetheless, here's how it goes. I am in Chicago. I'm 17 years old. I go with my family to a trade fair down at a place called Navy Pier. And there are all these different countries have booths representing products from their countries. And I think there was an Israeli booth, and I think oranges from Haifa was one of the featured things. But anyway, that wasn't that important. But went to this booth, and I will never forget the people. They were, of all the people in that international thing, the most aggressive, entitled, arrogant, pushy people. It stuck with me for so long. What's with these people? And then as I became a little more socially conscious, I was never some kind of a great social warrior or anything, and reading about the things that they, Israel, and I thought, wow, that's just like those people on steroids. These people are those people on steroids. And it's just like, this is what America is, the way we're regarded in a lot of places in the world. Arrogant, pushy, entitled, aggressive, So it's beyond that when you have people that are deliberately shooting children and women in the head to see to it that they can't procreate or grow up, and that the race is going to be eliminated. How many people in ufology want to talk about that? Billy was he was learning a lot about this firsthand and going back decades. And he has firsthand seen stuff in the Ukraine war and in Gaza with the help of these folks and lots of other stuff. And he'll publish stuff before it's published, geopolitical stuff. Just know you start to read things, a couple of weeks later, you read it. He's described it back then, talks about what we saw, and then you see it. And you go, but you see, they don't try and push that down our throats. They mention it, and if you're catching it, if you're realizing what, this 83-year-old guy with a gray beard is traveling in time as well as space. Yeah, okay, move along. This is what they met with one man because he had the character, the strength of character, the courage to carry on despite any and everything. People literally walking up and shooting him in the chest and then trying another, like 26 odd attempts to kill him. We don't, and then stupid people say, well, if you're really a good shot, say, oh, we are so demented in this country with life and death mean nothing now. And this is part of what's going to become, unfortunately, the way of the world. Anarchy, chaos internationally. This country, we have a threat that our president could, under certain circumstances, which may also be if he's put into certain corners, if he keeps getting by, other things that can be, he may declare martial law in this country, shut down entry and exit from the country. There's lots of things that are looming that'll seem very surrealistic. We're already surrealistic with troops, military troops on the streets, scooping up people. And I'll tell you, I a long time ago said a person's first act for a new country shouldn't be to break its laws and enter. Now I say that as somebody who, in my own life, having been trained to do nothing useful for most of my life when I was a single father and had to support a child, I started doing everything and anything, working car washes. I was a janitor, this busboy. No, I loved it. It was just like, wow, I'm going to finally, be able to support my kid and myself. But I worked with tons of people who were illegal aliens, if you will use those terms. A lot of them were just the sweetest people I had worked with. And I wasn't thinking much about it at the time. As I thought more and more and started to see the dynamic building some years ago, I really came to the determination, the law of cause and effect, folks. I know people. I personally don't want to see them caught and thrown out, it's on a personal level. But I step back and I say, pardon me. If your first act to get into the country is to break its laws, to not come in, my parents were refugees from Europe and Russia. They came in. I mean, their lives were at risk. They had to leave their countries. Some people, just like we should have asylum for people whose lives are at risk, but economic opportunism is not covered under that. The responsibility a human being has to their own country, to uplift it, to bring it to a place where all within the country, and along with all helping as much as possible, can enjoy those things that you want to just go and get by jumping into another country. Well, that's not the way to do it. So obviously, it's a split kind of a feeling level, but I understand it. I like these people. I'm fond of these people. These people have broken the law. If they are caught, it's a learning experience. I've had a few learning experiences in life, as we all have, that we, holy, how to get out of that, survive it. So it's hard, but you see, when you're politically polarized, like the hyper woke people in America who are just, they don't have an understanding, a working understanding, and there's liberals have a lot of phony kind of compassion born out of a kind of even unconscious sense of superiority. We're going to help those poor people. They want to separate and be above people. I'm not saying that the right wing people in our country are better. They have their own ridiculous things. They conceal truths, and they're the profiteers just like they're. But you see, this kind of thing, because they're polarized through, agendas. They have agendas and they have belief systems. And also, they're trapped in those. They can't go, wait, that isn't the way life works, is it really? No, it isn't. You don't try and tell people that a boy is a girl. Well, what about that person? You don't attack the person that feels differently. You see them as Billy says, to be of equal value. Why can't we? It's like this big hubbub about trans sports. A couple of years ago, I wrote, why not have a trans male and trans female category? Nobody's picked up and just do that category. So instead of some guy 6'4" getting in a swimming pool because he's in, consciousness zero, just wants success at the easiest, cost over others. Well, hey, you're a trans athlete? Great, fine, do whatever you want to do. Get a category, jump in there. To this day, I haven't heard of it. Why isn't anybody going male sports, female sports, trans male, trans female? End of discussion. Move along. No, it's got to be a big political thing. We've got to fight for these rights. What rights? You don't have a right as a man to beat up a woman in a boxing ring. But we've also become so just dead inside to violence. I can't understand why anybody wants to watch two women beat the hell out of each other. I have to admit, I like martial arts, always have a whole life. I'm still attracted to, I wonder who's the better artist here. Oh, why am I watching this stuff? And I go through my conflict about it. But I don't want to see people shooting each other and beating each other. And, the internet now is just full of all this stuff because society is breaking down. our morals and values and all that. So what do? Well, a couple hundred pages in here to start learning how to think and enjoy the joy of learning truth. The joy of learning truth. It's something that you can't get from, eating, drinking something, being given something, because those things are transitory. In our film, we have a film that's called Singularly Authentic, and I just tried to jam pack it with as much evidence, even Billy's stuff about Trump from 47 and this and that, and documents going back then where they're calling him a Hitler-like dictator. When I read that stuff, I said, really? Is it going to turn out? Watch things going on. Oh my gosh, this guy's, loony. COVID. My YouTube channel was taken down a couple of years ago because I published Meier's information on COVID, which turned out to be 100% ironclad, accurate, and published before the WHO, the CDC, and anybody else, with even naming the two people who actually were the progenitors of this disease that nobody's mentioned. Nope, they haven't discovered. They think it's started with Fauci and Bill Gates. And no, started decades ago. And we proved through copyrights, whenever we say we prove this is factually accurate, we prove it with copyrights. You can't argue with them. Here it is in writing. Wuhan Lab, 2019. They just come out with it. Well, the government here now says it's got to be the Wuhan Lab. Yeah, and this is when I have a audio online. I called a company called Sission to put out press releases. They previously put out at least 15 press releases on the Meier case. Call them up because I sent them a press release on COVID when early days of it. And the guy says, we can't put this out. And I said, why not? It was an hour and 20 some minute conversation. The guy would not put the press release out. And I happened to have recorded the conversation. They didn't want to know. And when I tried to send the information around in my state on March 5th, 2020, there were 5 cases in Arizona, 57 cases in our country. I couldn't get one government official, one radio station, one TV station, one journalist to even touch it. Nothing. Crickets. Didn't want to know. So this is not about UFOs, folks. If you think spending your time, even if the only thing you want from the Meier case is the UFOs, okay, fine. Have a nice day, but you're not going to get too far because you can only get to that. If you stay
It obviously goes much deeper, but
Yes.
I would like to tie it back to UFOs to finish off. I'm not sure how much time you have left. We're a little bit over time, but I do have one question for you if you've got it.
I got it.
So in recent years, the UFO topic has kind of hit the spotlight a bit more, and we've had congressional hearings and things like that. People from military, Navy backgrounds testifying in front of Congress. People like Dave Grush talking about crash retrievals and things like non-human biologics. And although it hasn't gotten the media attention that some of us wish it did, it has created sort of a public discourse that hasn't been happening so much up until this point. What I would like to know is, are the things being discussed now from what we would consider an official sources, are they a separate phenomenon from the Billy Meier case? Are they somehow related, or is this sort of a coordinated disinformation campaign that is meant to distract us from something else? What's your take on it?
Okay, well, let me open by saying that the UFO cover-up itself began over 110 years ago, not 70 years ago, and we have that on the site. So you hit on something that actually I, in a way, tried to participate in. In 2000, Billy had asked us to go to a storage unit in Moab, Utah, search out the archives that remain from the late Lieutenant Colonel Wendell Stevens, the lead investigator in this case. We went 2 days spent in a hot and dusty archive room. Last day, 24 boxes. The 24th box, stick my head in. It's a bunch of photographs. Pick them up. They seemed to me that, oh, those are the photographs from this Mirage jet where Billy took photos of the UFO with a Mirage jet flying behind it. I send them back to Switzerland. I get an email saying, no, those aren't a Mirage jet. Those are photographs taken at Groom Lake, Area 51. And that is a then top secret stealth airplane interacting with, remember I mentioned Asket, his second contactee person, with Asket's UFO. And on the ground was Wendell Stevens himself taking the photos, not Billy. Used Billy's camera, took the photos, and it was done with time travel. They brought him to that time because they knew in June, I think of 81 or something, that these photos, that this test flight would take place. Okay. So this is the information I got back from Switzerland. Time travel did it all. So I've got the photos. I call around. I find out that there's a, what do you call it? A U.S. committee that's meeting to House Investigative Committee on this, that, and the other thing, chaired by a Democrat, Andre Carson. I leave a message, and I don't expect calls back because I don't get responses from the government things, and I stop bothering with them. Okay. So one day I see a message in my machine. I think it was, no, not my machine, my phone. The phone machine's a little past, but anyway, 202 area code. And I thought it must be spam, but for some reason I decided to play it. And it's a woman, Amy Munch is her name. She's with this committee. They're investigating UFOs. They got my message. Would I be willing to send them copies of the photos? Certainly. She said, I'd be interested in getting those. We'll investigate. We'll send them up the chain. I said, great. And because I corresponded with her to tell, here, I'm going to send the photos, this, that, and the other thing. I send the photos digitally. I'm waiting. Nothing happens. And bottom line, what happened was they got the photos and they censored them, which is what the government does. But they went on with the dog and pony show, which all of these things are. There's nothing that will be revealed in a government committee that the military intelligence, secret military CIA doesn't allow to be revealed. And a lot of those people don't know anything above a certain level. And people like Rush whistleblowers, I say, hey, maybe they've seen things. They believe they've seen things. They saw some things, but have been influenced through their hypnosis or drugs or whatever, or they're telling all that they know. I don't criticize those people. Why should I? I don't know. But I can tell you that they haven't said a damn thing that is significant to anybody that has a brain. So, what is this all about? Well, most of the craft, the objects, the UAP, UFO, whatever phenomenon, falls into two categories. Secret military from this country or other countries which have it, and that can include Canada, Russia, China, and maybe France or UK. Okay. And people in governments, a lot of people won't know anything about that, but those things were being developed after the Second World War. And as I said, there's info on the cover-up and earlier developments of alternative craft. Okay, I asked Billy in 2015 about two different things. One was the fake alien attack. And he talked about the secret military and stuff, and people don't really have to worry about not being attacked by extraterrestrials. And in a separate video, and all of this is actually, I have these in our new film, Singularly Authentic. So in that other one, I asked him about what's called the Earth Foreigners. Since 1999 at least, they have published information using the term Earth Foreigners. And throughout the years, they fleshed that out a bit. So he presented it in the video, and he said, okay, and explained. And so what it means is there are beings on and under, mainly they base under the surface of the planet. There's about 3 groups in that realm, and there's one other group which he calls the future Earth travelers. And they are future Earth people from an unspecified time that have come back to view, not to interact, but to observe probably how the hell did we ever get this. So we've got them, and the ones that are underneath Earth, at least one of the groups are descendants of extraterrestrials that were based perhaps in India or certainly South America, Middle East, let's say more Middle East long ago, and in South America, and who over time, as the population was diminishing, they gained access to the base, got a base going underneath the earth. They are probably the ones behind some of the more phenomenalistic stuff, but the secret military, including US, is behind a lot of sightings and have been. As the guy from the MUFON organization was informing, we turn things over to the CIA so they can see how well the terrestrially originating craft are shielded or how they appear and any other craft. Okay, so the future Earth people, according to this information, hasn't been changed yet to my knowledge, do not meet with people. They're not channeling and all this stuff, but they also have their own agenda. And it's not the most evolved agenda. They don't go into it. It's not what the Plejaren are here for. So the Plejaren have no contact whatsoever with them. And in these Hanok prophecies that I mentioned, it is said that at the time that this Third World War is raging with the West against the world, there is a likelihood, a chance at least, that these descendants of the extraterrestrials will make themselves known. And Billy said they have really advanced technology, not what the Plejaren had, but way beyond what the Earth people have. And when they decide to, they will throw their lot in with the countries being attacked at war with the West. So that wouldn't bode well for us either. And it's probably why in those prophecies it is said America will be a country of complete destruction. The reasons for it are manyfold, etc. And goes, we're pushing for war. You know, it's the main business of this country. We've offshored everything. And now with AI, which Meier foretold in 58 and 87, in 87 being very specific in these Hanok prophecies, that this artificial intelligence computerized weapons would be developed along with cloned fighting machines, cloned human beings, and the computerized weapons would eventually turn against and decimate humankind. But don't tell that to all the techno nerds that want to play with their techno toys and have their thinking done for them, and they will soon enough, who knows, months, years, be servants, if they're lucky, survivors of that which we see now. So the Meier case, this is Meier context, the key to our future survival. I didn't name it that with my first DVD in 2004 for no reason. And we have more reasons to call it that. And I have it in my film, Singularly Authentic.
Michael, I'm sure we could go on much longer. This is a very deep well that I'm sure goes down to, great depths. And we've probably only scratched the surface, but I want to thank you for going through this, at least explaining the phenomenon in such great detail for people who are perhaps new to it. This might warrant future conversations. But yeah, I just wanted to thank you for your time today.
It's my pleasure. I hope we meet again.
Absolutely. Would you also like to tell the audience who would like to know more where they can find more about Billy's work and your work?
Sure. My main site is called theyflyblog.com. And all of what we've spoken about is to be found there and in the new film, Singularly Authentic, also available at They Fly Blog as my commercial. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And for anybody listening, just another reminder that Unveiled is available on all podcast platforms. So please go follow us wherever you listen to podcasts. And we'll be back soon with more guests on UFOs, UAPs, and everything else that's mysterious. So until next time, be well, everybody. Take care.